Yo, what is going on YouTube? It's your boy Dan, aka aDrive. I'm bringing you guys a brand new video today discussing the Alola Pokedex and Pokemon Sun and Pokemon Moon, which are coming up in just a few weeks. I know you guys are hyped, so definitely show your love with that like button down below. But we've got some awesome guests on this video today, and I'm really excited to introduce them. First and foremost, we've got Verlisify.
And I'm happy to introduce you back to my channel, man. Like, since we've all been doing coverage right now, I think it's been really awesome to just kind of get all of our thoughts in one place and then have everyone come together. And we also have a new face slash voice to everything. How's it going, Philly?
Hey guys, PhillybeatzU here, and we're going to be going in depth about the Alola Dex today, so let's get into this.
Alright, so I have like my talking points right here, just get everyone's thoughts. Like, first off, how we got here with this whole like Pokedex leak, and that's why I brought Philly over here, because he's been so deep in the datamine files and stuff, he probably knows a lot of stuff. Then with aDrive, I just want to hear what he has to say, because I think the 7th generation is really fantastic looking.
I agree, man. It's shaping up to look like one of the best Pokemon games out there in the history of Pokemon, man. I could tell you that I am personally so incredibly stoked for Sun and Moon. I've never been this hyped for a release. And I know there's been some controversy over the new Pokemon and whether people like them or not, but I honestly think that Game Freak and Nintendo have gone a really cool direction with this game. They're trying to mix things up a little bit. They're catering to a young audience, which I think is important to the longevity of the series. And I'm just stoked to see what this game has to offer.
Yeah, I agree with you, Dan. There's a lot of variety of Pokemon this time in terms of how it looks and their typings. It's really cool.
I do like the idea that I think it caters to both. Like, there's some things that are for a younger audience, but then there's Pokemon like Type Null. Like, I just want to like jump in. Like, let's get our favorites out of the way. Mimikyu, #1 favorite, might actually be my like most favorite Pokemon of all time right now. I'm liking Pick-a-Peck, and even up into its final evolution. The final evolution of Rowlet is ridiculous, and then Type Null is just such a fascinating Pokemon. What do you guys think about like some of the specific Pokemon that we see right here?
Dude, Lycan, yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Lycanroc?
Lycanroc, yes. Everyone knows. You can see my profile pic. Lycanroc is one of my favorites this gen. It's so amazing, and it's so fresh to finally get a Pokemon with the priority rock move, especially the midday form, and I am blown away by Lycanroc. Then we have our amazing final evolution for Rowlet. It has a ghost typing, which I find fascinating. We've never had a ghost typing before in a starter, so those two are one of my favorites. So
yeah, man, I definitely dig those. I'm actually a fan of the Midnight version of Lycanroc, which I think looks really cool. But in terms of my favorite Pokemon so far, Vikavolt is definitely at the top. That's no secret that I love my bug types. But Vikavolt's looking like it's going to be pretty awesome, being Bug Electric, which we've seen before with Galvantula. But this guy's got Levitate, and it seems that it doesn't evolve until level 40, which gives me some hope that this might actually be a pretty powerful bug type with maybe some really good special attack and some good speed. I'm really digging that. There's been a lot of Pokemon that I'm really interested in, though. And one of the things I'm most interested in is seeing how the Ultra Beasts are kind of integrated into the storyline and how they impact the competitive metagame specifically. Because at first glance, I'm not a big fan of them, but if they're integrated properly and they're not, if they kind of just take a place of legendaries in a way, they might not be too bad. But they are definitely a little funky, if you ask me.
Well, with the Vikavolt, yeah, I think, were you like super excited when you saw that it evolved at level 4? Because I'm like, whoa, this Pokemon might actually have real stats because of that.
Yeah, I was really surprised, and I'm hoping that that's actually like what the trailer was trying to show us. It did seem that that was the case, but having it evolve at level 40 does indicate that it could be a pretty powerful Pokemon. I mean, if you give that thing like 110, 115 base speed, and then throw it like a special attack of like 125 on there, maybe I'm being a little optimistic, but that could make it a pretty good Pokemon, even if it is a little bit frail.
And it's kind of new and fresh that we're getting a bug type in the first part, one of the starter bugs that we encounter first that actually becomes pretty powerful and evolves really late. That's a first.
Yeah, it seems that way. I mean, we've had like now that we have Mega Beedrill and stuff, but you're right. We really haven't had a great bug type at the beginning of the game, with maybe the exception of Scolipede in Black 2, White 2. But I'm really curious to see kind of how Vikavolt is from a competitive perspective. But either way, I'm really excited about it. I think its design looks awesome. Its shiny looks amazing. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun.
All right, Mr. Bugman over there, aDrive. I want to know what you also think about like Wimpod, Cutiefly and its evolution, and also like that spider-looking thing. Like that water.
Yeah, so
I
I'm
want
gonna
to hear
start
what you
with
think about
Cutiefly.
that.
Yeah.
All right.
I'll start with Cutiefly because I'm a little surprised that Cutiefly does not have another evolution. It seems like it's just a 2-stage Pokemon, so I'm a little bit concerned about how viable it's going to be just from that alone. But it is Fairy and Bug type, which is pretty cool. And who knows, maybe it'll be kind of like a support type Pokemon and not like kind of almost like Sableye, where it has some support type moves and can function that way as more instead of like more like a sweeper Pokemon. Wimpod, I had no doubts that Wimpod was going to turn into something pretty fierce, and Buff Pod or whatever you want to call it. It's looking pretty sweet. I just hope it retains that bug typing, and I'm curious to see what its secondary typing is going to be, whether it'll still be water type like Wimpod is, or whether it's going to be something different, steel type or fighting type. A lot of people have speculated. But last but not least, man, when I saw these Dex leaks and I saw that Diving Bell Spider, I freaked out. Now, we don't have any sort of idea or confirmation regarding its typing just yet, but it does seem to be, since it is based on a Diving Bell Spider, that it will be bug type. And if that's the case, this thing looks pretty cool, man. Very, very different looking Pokemon. Has I don't want to say a Reuniclus vibe because of the jelly part, but almost does a little bit. I'm curious to see kind of how that Pokemon works out in terms of competitive and also just general gameplay, whether it is a bug type or not. Hopefully it will be. It looks like it could be electric. People have guessed maybe water type. I don't know, but it looks pretty sweet, man.
It's really hard to pin what that one is. I'm thinking with Cutiefly's evolution, though, it might be like just a Bug Fairy Masquerain. And if they wanted like a theoretically Masquerain level viable Pokemon, maybe it has like a little better stats off Quiver Dance. Have you thought about that?
Yeah, that's possible. That's possible. If it does get Quiver Dance and can boost that way, I mean, you could really make it more viable. Like a lot of the bug types that exist now lose viability from being, successfully competitive with Quiver Dance because of that bug and flying typing, really crippling them on Stealth Rock entries. So having a fairy secondary typing, which is what Vivillon should have been, could actually make Cutiefly and Ribombi, I think it's called, a pretty effective Pokemon. But I guess we'll have to just wait and see.
Yeah, the one thing that scares me about Wimpod's evolution, I really hope it retains water type. I really do, because it's scaring me, and it's looking like a fighting type with those big hands, and I'm worried about that.
Surskit's the only water bug on Surskit, right? So I would like to see a final competitively viable Pokemon with that water bug.
And it needs it too, because the bug type suffers so much. Like lately I've been actually trying to use mono bug on Pokemon Showdown, and I did pretty well on the UU ladder, but the team really struggles anytime I have to face a fire type, and everyone brings Entei and Infernape and Chandelure, and I'm over here running Assault Vest Armaldo to try to stop it. It's a nightmare. So definitely could use a bug water type for sure.
I'm just looking at some of these other Pokemon. Like the only other Pokemon that's new that fascinates me is this Anchor. Like, is it Water Steel, Water Ghost? What is this thing going to be?
So it's kind of interesting because I posted on my Twitter a picture that it was a ghost ship found in Hawaii, and you can notice it had the same kind of like anchors, the wheel for the ship kind of look on it. So to me, it seems like since we got a lot of oceans in Alola, it might be something from a sunken ship. I'm thinking it's going to be a ghost water type maybe, or a ghost steel.
I think it almost has to be Ghost if you think about it.
Yeah.
In most situations in Pokemon where there's been, I mean, there's always exceptions, but there's been a lot of instances that, at least I believe, of these kind of Pokemon that aren't really creatures per se. It's kind of weird. I really feel like it has to be Ghost type. It's like an anchor that was inhabited by a Ghost Pokemon. So Ghost Water would probably be my best guess.
Yes, like I was thinking potentially with that Steel because of Anchor, but we just had Aegislash, and Ghost Steel is a super broken typing. But I was looking at all the other ones.
Shield.
And I was looking at, so it feels like they are going to be fitting in some ghost typings, like with the Rowlet evolution. Because other than that, we have like Mimikyu, Oricoreo's form, and then not many other ghosts. So having
don't forget Palossand and Sandygast though. That's a really cool one.
I don't like those guys. I think they're like silly looking sandcastles. So they don't count for me. I don't like.
Oh, they count for me, dude. I'm on a sandcastle with a shovel on its head, dude.
Oh no.
There's a lot of ghost varieties this generation, though. Especially with the grass ghost and the ground ghost, and oh my goodness, now
Fairy Ghost finally happened. That's all that matters.
Yeah, Fairy Ghost. That was mind blowing with Mimikyu. So ghost type trainers are going to rejoice this gen with the variety they get with the ghost types.
Yeah, I was tweeting out yesterday about how, like, I like to do monotype runs of games, and this game is really, as far as I can tell, the first Pokemon game where it seems like a mono ghost type run would be really feasible. There seems to be quite a selection of ghost type Pokemon early game on Island 1 and 2 with like Mismagius and Gengar and some of the older Pokemon like Drifblim and Sableye and stuff like that. But the integration, like you guys said, of these new ghost types could make this really, really cool. And I think something we could talk about here is I believe it was proven that Ghost is not going to be super effective against Fairy, which is something that a lot of people speculated on. But I wonder if they're going to make any changes to the type chart to affect the Ghost type, or affect the Fairy type rather, as well, to kind of nerf it. That'll be interesting to see.
Right. It'd be interesting if the stuff from the demo was kind of tweaked in the main version when it came to type nerfing. But from the demo, when people went through the files, it was confirmed that there was no buffs or any nerfs to any of the typings.
See, I believe that because I feel everything is kind of balanced right now. Like, even though Fairy is a little strong, I feel that all it needed to do was really just buff Fire, Steel, and Poison, and because of that, I feel Fairy's like found a balance. Now, I feel that one problem though is that there were way too many Fairy types being introduced in this generation.
Yeah, maybe they're just trying to make up for kind of lost time there. I will say this, even though I'm a bug fan, I truly believe this. Fairy should not resist bug. It doesn't have to be super effective, but it should not resist bug, man. Like, the bug types already get the whack anyway as it is. Why you gotta make it so fair resist bug? Come on.
I will say that does seem a little unnecessary.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Let's see, I'm looking at these guys. I was going to talk about the Ultra Beasts because I feel like Ultra Beasts aren't... I'm in denial because I think they're silly looking. I don't want to like acknowledge them as Pokemon, but I don't feel like they're going to be usable like in Pokemon battles.
Well, to me, it kind of seems like a new tier other than legendaries. That's what they're coming across. They're giving off that vibe, especially with the whole new Ultra Beast Pokeball that we saw that you can catch them in, which kind of blew everyone's minds because everyone was thinking these are not catchable Pokemon at all.
That's why I'm in denial now. It went from realistic speculation to no.
Yeah, I personally am not a fan of the Ultra Beasts, just by looking at them. I think, obviously, we can kind of make some ties to these Ultra Beasts and the characters in the game. There's some pretty significant correlation between, Lily and UB, and then you've got, the couple other characters from the, I can't remember all their names.
The Guzma one is, like...
Yeah, the Guzma one.
Straight up obvious,
yeah.
Man.
So it does seem like these Ultra Beasts are going to have some sort of a tie to the characters in the game. And based on what we've found from the demo, it seems that we are going to be able to catch them. And again, like I said earlier, I'm still a little conflicted on it. I'm open-minded to see how they're integrated into the game, but I personally have never been a fan of legendaries in general. I never use them myself, like through playthroughs and stuff, because I just feel like it makes the game too easy. And I think these Ultra Beasts, there's no chance that these things are weak. Let's be honest here. These things are going to be really, really strong. So are these going to be like all on the same kind of playing field as like, Mega Rayquaza, or are these going to be kind of like sitting along the lines of your Raikou, Entei, Suicune type of legendaries where they're all pretty good, but they're not like game breaking? I just hope that they're not game breaking because, we know they're going to be powerful, but the question is how powerful will they be?
Yeah, I totally agree. It's completely different. We had last gen when it came to the VGC, people were using Mega Rayquaza and then these primal versions, and it was just nonstop. Everyone's teams had exactly the same type of Pokemon. So I feel like for this generation, this might be that strange twist to the meta or for the VGC of maybe allowing one Ultra Beast per team or something like that.
So my thought that might be like a shining hope for the people that aren't a fan of Ultra Beast is that there was like that recent Polygon interview that had Omori and Masuda, and Omori said that the goal behind the 7th generation, one of the biggest things they wanted to do was define what a Pokemon is. And I feel that in a reverse side of that, maybe Ultra Beasts are meant to define what a Pokemon isn't. Because they're clearly different from any Pokemon we have ever seen before. And as we mentioned earlier, there is a huge variety of Pokemon that we've seen so far introduced with the 7th generation. Also, the way the story is being told and everything like that. Like, I love reading about these interviews because it does give some insight. And maybe that the Ultra Beast Ball only exists to kind of like take them out of the world. If the Aether Foundation or whoever creates the Ultra Beast Ball, if it just contains their power forever, and then the Ultra Beast, they're putting their ball, they're locked away forever, we don't have to deal with them ever again. Maybe that could happen if you read into the interview that way.
Right.
I'm on the train that thinks that they're going to be usable. I don't want them to be, but I really do feel that they're going to be usable just like everything else, man. I think they're going to just kind of take the place of those really strong legendary Pokemon that we've seen in the past, and just kind of in a new way. But I hope I'm proven wrong.
All right. Let's see. What about the legendary Pokemon? Because like Marshadow, there's so much weirdness about Marshadow that it's like it's just there. So what's it going to be? The Chinese leak said it has a unique typing. Have you guys like thought about what typing it's going to be then?
I mean, Dark Fairy seems pretty fair to me, right? We've never seen Dark and Fairy together. That's a pretty unique typing, and I think it kind of goes with that whole light and dark aspect. But one thing I want to bring up before Philly can jump in here is it almost seems like Marshadow is incomplete. Like it almost seems like there should be something after it, but maybe it has a different form. Maybe this is Marshadow is the link to the next game or the next decks. I don't know, man, but it's definitely interesting. I would have to, if I had to guess, though, I would say Dark and Fairy because it's the unique typing, and I feel like if you look at it, it kind of fits. I don't know what other type you could really work with, like except for maybe normal Ghost or something like that.
Yeah, no, I thought the exact same thing because when I'm thinking of a third legendary, I'm thinking of something that can counter the other two in a sense to bring order, which is like the theme of Pokemon. And since Solgaleo and Lunata have Psychic as their first type, it's very, very plausible that Marshadow is going to be a dark type. Just by the way it looks, it's already, it's colored in black, and it's a small, cute little Pokemon for now at least. So that's where we come up with the fairy. And I'm pretty sure we're going to get maybe another form for this thing later on as maybe a code or through an event in the Pokemon game. So
Zygarde kind of does support that because Zygarde's like, what's Zygarde going to do? And then Omega Green Alpha Sapphire. And then we found out about all these other things. Now, I guess the next question that I did want to talk about is like, let's transition. Do you think that there are going to be more Pokemon when the game comes out? That the demo was incomplete even with the full Pokedex? Because people look at some of the Pokemon, like as aDrive mentioned earlier, Cutiefly seems like it should have an evolution. A lot of people were thinking Kamala was going to have an evolution. And also, Pokemon has already revealed officially 60 of the 80 new Pokemon, and I think all of the Alolan forms except for the Geodude line. That seems like a little too much if this is it.
Go ahead, Philly.
Personally, I really hope we get more Pokemon that was, mentioned in the data mine. But Kamala feels so incomplete. I mean, you're thinking that Pokemon's gonna grow up and wield a giant wood stick and beat other Pokemon down with it. It just feels wrong, that some of these Pokemon don't have evolutions. So I'm hoping there could always be that small percentage chance that through the data mine could have missed something and that we could have new Pokemon. I
honestly believe we have everything. I feel very strongly about that. I obviously wasn't the guy who was going through the files and data mining, but I have a hard time believing that they would have the unfinished decks at this point. I mean, the game is pressed. The game's at warehouses now. Like, the game's out there. The game is done. So at this point, I really think that we've got everything in terms of the Pokemon and their evolutions and stuff. The Cutiefly thing, I think you kind of explained pretty well by comparing it to like a Masquerain or a Ledian or an Ariados kind of bug Pokemon. So that's not that far-fetched. But Kamala's Island 3, it looks like. You're not going to get to Kamala until, let's assume halfway through the game. So it's very possible that it's a standalone and does not have an evolution as much as we wanted it to be. It may be totally viable on its own. We've seen the case of Pokemon like Kangaskhan and Tauros and things like that, which have some viability on their own without evolution. So perhaps Kamala is going to kind of fit into that vibe. But it is very, very small. And I think that is the part that confuses people the most, is the fact that there's so much potential here. Like, I could have really seen this thing grow and have a giant hammer and really do a lot of things with that. But I'm curious if they ever answer this question, why they didn't decide to evolve Kamala, because it does definitely feel like one of the Pokemon, maybe more so than any other Pokemon I think I've seen, at least in this game, that should evolve,
Pyukumuku, maybe?
Yeah, Pyukumuku is another good example. That would be kind of the leading kind of argument for the discussion of that there is more information that we haven't gotten yet. But I just have a really hard time believing that they would go through so much effort in the demo to scrape out all the information, including HMs like move up pools and things like that, and leave all the sprites, but leave out a few of them. That just seems very unlikely to me. Especially considering that, from my understanding from the data miner's perspective, there was at least some attempts to try to kind of scrape the file before it was released, but they didn't do the best job, I guess.
And going from the other point, some of these Pokemon seem like they need pre-evolutions. We have Turtonator and Drampa, 2 dragon types practically that don't have pre-evolutions this generation.
Yeah. But it could be like the next Drudagon type of deal. But I agree. I definitely agree. Maybe they're just kind of maybe the plan is to kind of leave the doors open for the next game, Sun and Moon 2 or whatever it might be, or Pokemon Eclipse or whatever they're going to call it. And they introduce pre-evolutions in that game, or they have introduced evolutions. I mean, you never know. They really do have the opportunity to do that. They've done it in the past with Eevee having new evolutions, and then obviously I think it was Gen 3 or Gen 4 rather, where a lot of Pokemon gain new evolutions. Roselia, for example, and stuff like that.
Yeah, and at this point, the Pokemon Company and Game Freak, they're changing things up so much in the Pokemon series. I mean, we don't know what to expect next at this point.
I'm like 50-50, honestly. I feel like there has to be more, but then like if you're on the fence of them having to have more in it, then that's like tinfoil conspiracy. Like they only put in a couple of things and they left the rest of it. And so it starts getting really weird. But I'm wondering if it's either Game Freak underestimating the data miners and the hackers that much, because they scrubbed. It looked good for like the first couple hours. We're like, we're fine, and then Joe Merrick tweets, "Oh crap, they've got everything," and it's like, wait a second, what do you mean they got everything? And then people are like, I've seen Pokemon, I've seen new Pokemon. It's like, no, you're lying. They got everything. So
all hell broke out on Twitter after that.
Exactly. So what I'm wondering, because I was in on that. Me and Philly, we were covering this so hard. And it's like, okay, is Game Freak ahead of us? Did they anticipate maybe, just maybe, no matter how hard we scrub, people are going to get through this game? So we'll leave a couple of things out just in case? Or is it intentional seeding of like, okay, well, we'll scrub some things, we'll also put some teasers in? Because it worked. If this was a PR move, it was an incredible PR move. In like the most tinfoil hat kind of way. Because everyone blew up about this, trending on Twitter, all of that off the demo, and then if it turns out there's more in the game, then people get even more excited all over again. And that's why I'm like 50-50, because it feels incomplete, and not in a bad way. Like, it feels incomplete because I want more of these awesome 7th generation Pokemon. I don't want this to be it. And if it's it, then that's fine, because we still have these awesome 7th gen Pokemon.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I want there to be more, but I'm really on the train where I just don't believe it. I think what we've got is what we're getting, and they're going to leave the door open potentially for a sequel in the future that might integrate some of these different options, different evolutions or pre-evolutions. But I think what we got is what we got. I mean, I don't know. It's hard to explain when you look at a Pokemon like Kamala that it doesn't evolve. It's really tough to look at that and say, yep, this is a one-off Pokemon here.
Oh, yeah.
You know, with something like Mimikyu, I could totally see it, you know?
Yeah.
It gives that Klefki kind of vibe, you know, and I could see it with even Bruxish and stuff like that, or Ikorio, but with a Pokemon like Kamala and even Drampa, Drampa just screams that it should have a pre-evolution called Drakid or something, you know?
Everyone was like, oh, this is our pseudo-legendary. Nope, Drampa's just Drampa. And then also, when you look at the other evolutionary lines, there's almost like no 3-stage evolutions. It's all just random 2s and 1s, and it feels incomplete because of that as well.
Yeah, they're doing a lot of that this gen. A lot of 2 evos and a lot of just single stage mons.
I have no idea why, but I think we could kind of like go into the Alolan forms now, because it was really weird. Like when we saw Alolan Dugtrio, everyone thought that was fake, right?
Oh my god, stupidest thing ever.
Yeah, I was like, what on earth is this? This gotta be fake. It's too stupid. But
stupid, it's beautiful. I think it's perfect its own way, because Dugtrio has so many silly memes about it that if you see Dugtrio with hair, you're like, that is a meme, but now it's a real thing in Pokemon. I don't think it's stupid, but when I first saw it, I'm like, no, this is too silly to be real.
To be honest, when I first saw it, I didn't think it was a Alola form. I thought maybe that's a female version.
Oh no, like the Wobbuffet.
Like, this is maybe they added that in. You know, that was pretty cool. But no, I found out it was an actual Alola form. So I don't know. Not one of my favorite ones, I'll tell you that.
Mm-hmm. And then with Alolan Dugtrio, that means the only ones we haven't seen are the Geodude line. Any thoughts about that for the Geodude line?
Geodude line. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm leaning towards it being electric type.
Yeah, rock electric.
I think a lot of people have kind of figured that out, that it would probably be electric type.
Lightning rod.
Yeah, I mean, that could be really cool. I think its design is very simple, the Alolan kind of Geodude line. But hey, you know what? I think the Alolan. I'm personally a huge fan of the Alolan Pokemon in general. I think it was a great idea to kind of bring back Gen 1 in kind of a new way and refresh some of these old Pokemon. So I'm a huge fan of the Alolan Pokemon. My only thing was I wish they did it with more Pokemon and more Pokemon that weren't just in Gen 1. Like, they really could have taken, and maybe they just didn't want to overkill it or something, I get that, but they really could have taken, even if it was like 5 or 10 more evolutionary lines and convert them to the Alola region. Like Pokemon like Blossom, for example, would have just fit so perfectly in this game. And I don't even think Blossom's in the Dex, which is just ridiculous, but they could have really like kind of taken it to another level, but they seem to have just kind of done it a little bit, which is unfortunate because it would have been nice to see a lot of these Pokemon kind of get new usage and new life in this game. Like, I can tell you, I'm stoked to use Alolan Sandslash. Its design looks amazing. I don't care if its typing is absolutely terrible. Like, Steel Ice is probably as bad as it gets from a defensive perspective. But it looks really cool, and I think it could be a really cool Pokemon. And I feel the same way about, the Ninetales. And I think Muck is kind of cool, giving it a dark typing. And even Alolan Persian, as goofy as that thing looks, giving it fur coat and giving it a dark typing and kind of reimagining these Pokemon, I think is great. But they could have taken it to the next level, and it is a little bit, I don't want to sound ungrateful because I'm excited about the idea, but it is a little bit disappointing that they didn't do it for a few more Pokemon. There was a lot of Pokemon that I think could have had a lot of potential with that.
Yeah, I feel like maybe they're just teasing us for, what can be in store for the future, to see if we as an audience really enjoyed the fact that they added these forms in and see our reception. Because I know when they first showed Sandslash and Ninetales in their Alola forms, I freaked out because
everyone was like, wait, how? That's an existing Pokemon. What?
It's like the fan art became a reality. And that was just amazing.
It was a great idea. And I gotta say, as much as I see some negativity surrounding Sun and Moon on the internet, I think haters are gonna hate, man. But I'm so hyped for these games. I think they've done a great job from what we can see. Maybe they've leaked and revealed a little too much in the trailers and stuff up to this point. But aside from that, I think they've done a pretty solid job of really trying to capture, the current Pokemon fan base, but also, as they did in X and Y, really kind of pay tribute to a new audience, first of all, but also to the people who've been sticking with the series for so long, especially recently with the announcement of Red and Blue and really integrating some of those older characters like Cynthia and Wally and stuff like that. I think that's going to make this game really, really awesome and kind of make the franchise go full circle for the 20-year anniversary.
Yeah, and it feels like a huge payoff for people who played older Pokemon games to finally see these champions, at the end of the game, in the post game, when it comes to this league, which is really amazing.
One of my thoughts about the Alolan Pokemon is I think that Megas, I wouldn't say they were a failure, but when it comes to revitalizing Pokemon, like Mega Beedrill, they dumped more stats into Mega Beedrill than any other Mega. Like, they stripped everything except for attack and speed, and then Mega Beedrill didn't work out. And then a lot of these other Pokemon didn't work out. So with the Alolan forms, you don't get just one per battle. So it's going to make an opportunity for making more of these Pokemon revisioned, revitalized, and then potentially competitively useful. Like Muck, if that thing still gets minimized and it only has a ground weakness, oh my goodness.
OP.
Yeah, Muck is looking like it's going to be really sweet. That typing is phenomenal. We've seen it with Drapion, and I'm going to forget the other one. I know there's one other Pokemon, Skuntank. So we've seen that typing before, and it's actually a really good defensive typing. Poison has been historically a very, very good defensive typing. So I think Alolan Muck could be pretty insane, especially if it gets a nice little buff. Poison Touch makes it very, very awesome. That's a great ability that Muck really hasn't been able to utilize that well. But this extra typing could make this Pokemon very, very effective. And that was the thing that makes me so excited about the Alolan Pokemon, again, is they reimagined these Pokemon that we've known for 20 years now and
they did
created them in
really
a new way.
Really well.
Yeah, I mean, Alolan Muck's design leaves a little bit to be desired, but I'm okay with simplicity. Alolan Executor is the best, though.
Well, I'm looking. Yeah, exactly. I have all of them up right now. And Alolan Marowak, amazing. Raichu serving its tail like in the original Pokemon Stadium games, amazing. An Ice Fairy Ninetales, oh my goodness, it's like elegance perfect.
The new Dragon Slayer.
Everything about them, you can find out how it works. Like even when I was like, well, Alolan Rattata, that's out of nowhere, but it's like, no, it actually works out really well. And have you read the description on the Pokemon website about the Persian? It's talking about how this Pokemon's sought after for its beauty. It's absolutely hilarious how ironic it is.
That actually is pretty funny.
So I think
I think the
we're in a
Alolan
good
forms are
position.
sick.
Yeah.
Marowak, I think, is a big favorite.
Oh,
That looks
man.
really cool. I mean, that's another ghost type that I didn't mention before. Is you fire Ghost, Alolan Marowak. That's looking like it's going to be pretty sweet. So definitely thumbs up to the Pokemon Company for the Alolan Pokemon. I think great idea, great execution on a lot of them. Even though some of the designs do look a little derpy, like Faticate. I think it'll be really cool to have these Pokemon and give them some new life, and maybe they'll actually be pretty viable from a competitive standpoint when all is said and done.
I think that's a good way of wrapping up this, because we've been talking for quite a bit of time. I think aDrive gave his good closing thoughts about like how the Alolan Pokemon just work. What do you have to say, Philly?
That's pretty much it. Nice variety, amazing, amazing. This is shaping up to be probably the best gen so far.
That's why I wanted to do this video, just get all of our thoughts in one place, see what like one of the datamine researchers has. aDrive, I just want to know what you thought about like all the new bug Pokemon, since good bug fairy diversity, like some of these typings are really getting a huge buff right now, it feels. And then Alolan Pokemon are strong, the Dex is strong, crazy conspiracy theories are out there, and I want to play this game more now than ever.
Oh, me too, man. Me too. And I gotta say, guys, for anyone watching this video, if you guys want us to jump on and do another video and talk about some different topics, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section below, kind of giving us your thoughts on everything we discussed. And also, if you would like to kind of hear our thoughts on anything else for Sun and Moon, we've got, like I said, a few more weeks until the game comes out. So if there's one thing I'd like to do while I'm waiting to get this game in my hands, it's to talk about it. So let us know if you're interested, and hopefully you guys enjoyed.
Why else have I been doing like 6 videos a day? I think that's a great way to end. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
See ya.